Hi folks, this is All the Fruit. I'm standing at the famous Philosophers Path in Heidelberg. Here it is, the lower road. And today I'm gonna present you maybe the only park in Heidelberg dedicated to Mediterranean and subtropical trees and shrubs. The Philosophers Path is basically the most interesting fruit area and fruit park area in Heidelberg, which normal tourists will encounter without getting out of their way. I mean, there is an interesting fruit park at the Old Bridge. There is an interesting fruit park in the Castle Gardens, but they both kind of pale in comparison to the Philosopher's Path. Why is this so? Well, this area has been famous for cultivation of less frost-hardy plants for centuries. The microclimate here is very specific. Well, first, the climate in southwestern Germany is the mildest climate, maybe not the mildest, the warmest climate you will find in Germany. Like in the east of Germany, it's hot in summer, in the north it's mild in winter, but in the southwest it's hot in summer and mild in winter. Also here in Heidelberg, at the Philosopher's Path, we have a south-facing slope, the mountains protecting us from the cold air, although there are some other opinions about this in this case. The Neckar River, working as an air conditioner, and of course also all those rubble walls creating a kind of warm and dry microclimate. And in this first part of the Philosopher's Path, in the western part of the Philosopher's Path, there seems to be a very specific föhn effect with some winds which come over the mountains. And while passing over the mountains, they kind of heat up. So the western part of the Philosopher's Path has a very mild climate, even for Heidelberg conditions, while the eastern part doesn't enjoy that effect. The eastern part kind of, well, less than a kilometer away from here, on the same Philosopher's Path, on the same slope, on the same elevation, there is a park with frost-hardy ericaceae, like erica and rhododendron species, while here we have the park with all those Mediterranean and subtropical stuff. So this really is pretty much the mildest place you'll find outside the city, outside the built-up area. And actually, the climate is even more mild than in the city, because when you come here in winter, very often the old town will be covered in frost or snow, and you'll have like 3 sweaters and a thick coat. And when you come out here in sunny weather, it's t-shirt time. It can be 10, 20, in extreme cases even more than 20 degrees warmer than in the old town in winter when we have a sunny day. And yeah, basically you come up here with 3 sweaters and a coat, and then yeah, it's t-shirt time, and you can sit down at one of those benches and strip down to your t-shirt. Well, in the 80s, a guy named Dr. Tischer from the Botanic Garden of Heidelberg kind of appreciated this climate and started planting a public park on this public ground. This guy, Dr. Tischer, was a really amazing guy. He died at the age of, I think, 102 years, and he was active till the very last year planting this park here. Unfortunately, I never met him. And back then in the 80s and 90s, it was really difficult to get all those exotic plants. Nowadays, you just go to the next nursery or shop and they will get you a lot of Mediterranean and subtropical stuff. Back then, this was pretty hard. Back then, no internet, or a very primitive internet in the 90s. There were still stuff like border controls and toll imposed on important goods. So most of the nursery material was from Germany. So back then it was really hard to find those things, but because he had a lot of contacts through the Botanic Garden, he managed to plant a lot of amazing stuff. Okay, this was a very long introduction. Now let's start with the plants here. Well, a Berberis hematocarpa is not a really It's not a really sensitive plant to frost, but it has small edible fruit despite not being the tastiest pearberries. This plant here, which looks like an almond tree, is actually most probably a peach almond. Most of our so-called almond trees here are peach almonds, like the ornamental hybrid between peach and almond. Well, right here we had, yeah, they are the remnants of a walnut tree, but a couple years ago, right here we had a pomegranate and loquat tree in a time when those were still very, 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 very rare in Germany, and they were fruiting, which was basically unheard of. Here we have a Juneberry. I don't know if you can recognize it. 2 Judas trees, some edible cotoneaster, some laurel cherry, Prunus laurocerasus. Here we have an ancient chestnut tree. Chestnuts were always since Roman times, very important for food in the Heidelberg area and in the mild areas of Germany. And so we have a lot of old big chestnut trees everywhere around Heidelberg. Here another peach almond, or maybe this even could be a real almond. I think I should try the seeds, the almonds actually seeds later. Here's Amarosa, most probably from the Canine group. I kind of guess that this is not the ornamental graft, but actually the feral rootstock. Some hops, which is also wild or feral, used to make beer. This is Amarosa spinosissima, which grows in hot, dry areas in southwestern Germany, but it's not native to Heidelberg. Helicustrum lucidum. At the time this pretty old shrub was planted, this was also pretty much unheard of in Germany. I think you will hear this a lot during this video, because a lot of stuff which is more or less common in this part of Germany nowadays, back then, 30-35 years ago, was really, nobody actually believed that it would grow here. They thought, well, if this crazy guy pays for it, let him have it. A young peach almond. Unfortunately, a lot of the rare and exotic stuff died during the 16-17 years after Dr. Tischer died. So we don't have the huge selection he planted, but like more than 2/3 of the stuff is still here. Here we have a Viburnum rutidophyllum. This can withstand quite cold climates. A cornel cherry, which can also grow in kind of coldish climates. Another Viburnum rutidophyllum, and a selection of cotoneaster. I forgot all the cotoneaster species here. Elagaströmia indica. Very beautiful ornamental tree, which has been surviving here for a long time. And here, a feral Quercus ilex. Basically, where this stuff grows, we have Mediterranean climate, more or less. And so, this is the only quite large feral population of Quercus ilex I know in Germany. The trees grow 30 meters above us, but the whole slope, usually around 50 meters around those trees, but sometimes hundreds of meters, even hundreds of meters into the forest, we have feral little Quercus ilex, which would be an argument for arguing that the microclimate around here really approaches Mediterranean climate. Yeah, some of the feral Quercus ilex trees, for example, in this shrubbery down there, are like 3 to 4 meters high. So they have been escaping from cultivation here for quite a long time. Here, the Armenian bramble or Armenian blackberry with its tasty huge fruit. Here we have the normal Prunus laurocerasus, an evergreen cherry from the East Mediterranean. This is not uncommon in Germany. Here we have a couple quite large, they're not quite large, but quite old strawberry trees. However, here they don't fruit very well. You find only single fruit. Maybe he planted the wrong combination for pollination. What do we have here? Mahonia japonica, also with kind of edible fruit, although some sources argue that they are toxic. Another chestnut tree. And here, a big shrubbery of another laurel cherry. This is Prunus lusitanica, the evergreen cherry from southwestern Europe, like from Portugal. It's fruiting profusely here. There are lots and lots of young plants. Yeah, actually, this plant here, which is fruiting, was not planted, but I never really found out if those young plants are seedlings or basically rootstock, or basically suckers, sorry. Like the planted individuals or of Prunus lusitanica here are 30-35 centimeters thick, and they are surrounded by a lot of those young plants, but they don't seem to spread a lot, so I guess they might be mostly suckers. Here is a sucker which is about 7 to 8 centimeters thick and fruiting. Well, here we have a feral cherry plum, some elderberries, here some other bearberries. It's hard to recognize what bearberries it is. The toxic yew with its edible fruit, but edible only if you know how to eat them. Juniperus communis, it was common to this region, but now it's extinct in the wild around here. Not everywhere in Germany, just in the Heidelberg area, but still being planted from time to time. I see that during the last years we have lost even more of the interesting fruit trees and shrubs around here, but don't despair. There is still quite a large number of them left. Firethorn, Pyracantha coccinea, and here a young Quercus ilex. This is so young, this might be one of the feral ones, or it might be one of the last ones which were planted. Here another ancient chestnut tree. Well, those Quercus ilex here were clearly planted. There are some of the bigger ones. Up there, some feral apple, but I don't even know the species. Some more feral cherry plums here. Viburnum tinus. This is actually fruiting here in the area. So sometimes you can get fruit, and sometimes, I'm not sure if those, sometimes you can even find young plants around here, and I'm not sure if they are suckers or maybe even seedlings. So here we have some Rus, what is this, Rustifina or Rus? Well, some Rus where you can use the fruits to make lemonade. I don't recommend eating them fresh because they are quite hairy. And here, a very important tree for the production of cork. This is arguably the biggest cork oak which grows anywhere outdoors in Germany. When I saw this tree for the first time, it was about half as thick. It was about 20 centimeters thick. Now it's at least 40 centimeters thick. If we were in the Mediterranean, people would already harvest the cork. Of course, here nobody does it. The tree is too valuable to risk it. And it's one of the few trees which have labels here, but basically, like the gardener said, so many people steal the labels, but that we have given up to put labels on most of the fruit around here. Well, here we have a silverberry, which is basically the first ripe fruit in Germany in spring. This year they ripened in February. When I arrived here in March, I already missed the fruit season. Yeah, really, this year they were very early. I could still get some fruit in some shady parks down in the city, but here on the southern slope, fruit season for those was in February. Phyllurea, I think those are different Phyllureas, maybe Phyllurea latifolia and Phyllurea media, with lots and lots of fruit. However, I don't think that those are edible. Up there another Juneberry with edible fruit. Well, here elderberry, as well as some other cotoneaster. This is, I think, Cryptomeria japonica. Not doing very well here, but I guess this is rather the drought than the frost. Berberis juliane. And here we have some dewberry, Rubus caesius. Here another Juneberry from North America, Melanchia. Well, I'm not sure that this is a Melanchia ovalis. I'm not sure that this is a Melanchia lamarcki. He planted a lot of different Melanchia. They could be different species. Well, down there, for some reason, all the palm trees that were planted already died. This is a pity. Over there is a small cork oak which is not doing very well. Here we have a Spanish broom, Spartium juncteum. Here a bitter orange which is not doing very well, Poncirus trifoliata. Yeah, a lot of those plants are decades old, but because they didn't receive a lot of care and they did not receive a lot of watering, a lot of fertilizer, and also they were rarely freed from the brambles around them. A lot of them are much smaller than they would be in an intensively managed park. So this one here is at least from the 1990s. So let's continue. It's a pity. Over the last 2 decades I've seen many of those interesting plants disappear. There's still an amazing number of exotic trees and shrubs, and even exotic fruit trees and shrubs around here, but they are getting less and less, and the gardeners simply don't have the resources to do more than some basic maintenance, despite the fact that we are here at the world famous Philosophers Path. Here another small tree-leaved orange, which is already decades old. Yeah, for some reason this Eichendorffanlage is also a place for a lot of kind of illegal parties at night, so the gardeners don't want to put too much effort into the park. They think they will be disappointed that most will be destroyed. Here 2 of the bigger quercus, 2 of the bigger Quercus ilex or black oak, already about 8 to 9 meters tall. Those are the parents of most of the feral oaks around here. We used to have thousands of feral oaks around here, but most were in the kind of managed area, and yeah, the gardeners cut down most of them while managing the area. Between this white oak and the black oak, and a little bit behind them, there is a hackberry. Here another Cryptomeria japonica. Here a normal Prunus avium. a normal feral cherry. I don't think anybody planted it here because it does not fit the style of the garden. This was a Robinia, I think, Neo-Mexicana. Very rare here in Germany. They cut it down a couple years ago and it's still suckering, but they are destroying the sucker, so I guess they are planning to kill this one. Here we have some, well, the Mediterranean Viburnum tinus, and here the Viburnum opulus from temperate climate, which is native to Germany. Again, a yew, poisonous tree with edible fruit, but if you don't know how to eat the fruit, you're gonna die. Here, 2 pine trees. There used to be a third one in the middle, the Alpine Pinus mugo, which has been removed. Well, this here is Pinus sylvestris, which, like the name suggests, forms a lot of the forest in Germany. This is the only native pine tree to most of Germany. And here we have the Mediterranean stone pine or domestic pine, Pinus pinea. This is where those wonderful resinously tasting fruit, seeds basically come from, which sometimes are called pine nuts. Here we have a collection of cypress trees. Some of them are the Mediterranean cypress, some are the Arizona cypress, also a lot of other ones. I already forgot which is which. Another chestnut tree. Maybe here we can show the young immature chestnuts. Here they are. They will grow to more than twice the size before they get ripe. Down here in front of the big Liriodendron trees we have a couple of youngish, maybe 20, 30 years old ginkgo trees. However, those trees seem to be males as far as I can see, so no fruit. Here a European beech, Fagus sylvatica, also with edible fruit. Well, about 100 years ago, Heidelberg was supposed to become a big spa when they discovered some mineral water, and this was supposed to be the big park of the Heidelberg spa, but later they gave up the idea. So most of the original landscaping is from before World War I, and after that it was kind of maintained in a half wild state, thus developing a lot of really wonderful habitats for wild plants and animals. But we are here for the fruit right now. Sorry for this video getting so long, but some of the interesting stuff is really quite far up here. So here we arrive at the Bismarck Tower, a tower built in honor of German Chancellor Bismarck. And beneath this tower there are 2 service trees, which are not doing so well because they are kind of outcompeted by the oak trees. They are not ripe yet, but this is what the fruit look like. Here in southwestern Germany they were mostly used for adding to wine or cider, not so much for raw consumption. And last but not least, here is a big feral population of the German Mendler. Over 100 plants in total around the Bismarck Tower. I've been managing this for many years, and so the Mendlers are developing quite well. However, this one is a little bit drought stressed, so the Mendler plant is supposed to look more like this. So if there was more sun here, there would be a lot more of those fruit, which, just like the service tree fruit, are mostly being used to flavor and preserve wine or cider. So folks, this was what remains of the wonderful Mediterranean and subtropical tree and shrub collection of the Eichendorffanlage after 30 years not planting anything. Stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the Philosophers Path in Heidelberg. And don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.